You've got voices in your head and they suck. Here's why.
They do. Welcome, everyone, to Breakthrough with Mallory and Julie. I'm Julie Birch, professional speaker, author, now podcaster. I'm a happy wife and a mom to an amazing four-legged, furry little kitty that I've named Merle Haggard. She's my doll. I love her to pieces. And I am all about self-abdication. I'm all about my war on getting people to take back their power. So my hope is when Mallory and I share some things with you today that they will resonate, they'll make sense, and maybe it'll give you just a little bit of a kick in the mindset that you might be able to take back some actions, some things that you can do to make yourself more effective as well.
I'm Mallory Heron, wife, mom, CEO, speaker, author, dog mom, and now podcaster. And my goal here is to really help start a movement of people that are taking back their power and control in their lives so that they are healthier and happier.
Love it.
And today we are going to talk about those voices in your head that suck. We're also just going to talk about generally, who is it that you listen to? Who is listening to you? Are you leading by example?
Those are big things. Very, very important.
I think that generally most everybody has a bit of an inner monologue that we're listening to. So we're talking about, yes, people externally that you're also listening to, but we need to start with ourselves.
Yes.
Now, if you don't have an internal monologue, because there are people that don't, I don't know what that's like.
I can't imagine that.
This is just constant in my head all the time. It's my own voice telling me things, mostly mean things.
I narrate to myself. I tell myself what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So I'm just going to go do this, and then I'm going to add this to this.
I wish that I could do that more often because I walk into the kitchen and forget why I'm there too much.
Well, we do that all the time. The older we get, the more we do that.
That's true. And it's not limited to just the kitchen anymore.
Nope.
When you think about who has influence over you and who you have influence over and who you're listening to, starting with yourself is very important. And I want everybody to take a minute and think about what that inner monologue is like. Is that inner monologue nice to you, or is it really critical of you? What do you think, Julie? What about you?
I think most of our inner voices, I think statistics actually bear that out, that most of the things that we say to ourselves are negative. My mom is hilarious, and my mom has always said to me that your inner voice cannot take a joke, right? So when you tell yourself that you're stupid or you're not smart enough or you don't have the skills or whatever it is, that we tend to believe that. So basically the stuff we're saying to ourselves is trash. We are really speaking trash to ourselves. We do it all the time. We tell ourselves all the things we can't do, all the things we don't have, all the things we're not good at. We're not smart enough. We don't have the right education. We're not attractive enough. We're not thin enough, whatever it is. And really, my mom's right that when we hear ourselves say that, we start to buy in. So we got to stop listening to the trash.
It even goes as far as like science proves it. Again, I don't have the data because
It's just science.
It's science. It just is.
It's just science.
That you can actually think yourself sick. The power of your thoughts is it's intense. It is very powerful. If you think, oh, I'm sick with XYZ thing, you can get sick with that thing or some other thing. I think there was a quote, I don't remember who said it, but whether you believe you can or you can't,
you're probably right.
Yeah. And it's true. And when we talk about this in the context of self-abdication, how many times have you not done the thing that you wanted to do because the voice in your head said, oh, you won't be successful at that. You can't do that. Right. You shouldn't even try. You'll be terrible at it. Look at all the mess that it's going to make. And that's not true. We're so mean to ourselves internally.
That's right.
And so do you have challenging thoughts? Do you say, hey, wait a minute. Okay, I've heard somewhere that if you actually name your inner monologue, it's a lot easier to stop thinking so negatively.
Really?
So if you let's call it my inner monologue, Nancy. So let's say that there's something I want to do and Nancy's in there saying, oh, you would be so bad at that. No one is going to listen to your podcast. No, people are going to just hate anything you post on social media, all of those thoughts, right? If I challenge Nancy, if I give Nancy a name and say, that's just Nancy. She's talking shit all the time. That's just how Nancy is. It's easier. It sounds silly, but it's easier than to be like, No, I don't have to listen to that.
Nancy.
It could be Karen, Dave, whatever you want to name your inner monologue. But the point is challenging it. So recognizing when it's happening and saying, hey, no, pump the brakes here. Stop it.
Right.
I can do what I put my mind to. I can be successful at this. Worst case scenario, maybe I'm not, but at least I can respect myself for trying.
That's right. I do think it's about changing how we talk to ourselves. I love naming it. I always say my evil twin is Judy because I'm Julie. And that's the one name I don't like being called is Judy. So I think that makes sense. But I think it's changing how we talk to ourselves, right? So we understand that might be the default. That's where we lean. But we have to, like you said, recognize it and correct it because we beat ourselves up over the craziest things. It can be the simplest things. You're driving down the road and you make a wrong turn. You're like, oh, I am so stupid. I'm so stupid. I've been here a dozen times. I can't believe I missed that. It's so stupid. But again, if you're self-conscious, can't take a joke, right? Your subconscious is hearing that and it believes it. We have to stop and have to say, no, I'm not stupid. But I wish I hadn't made that mistake. Or even when people, this is when I get a lot, especially when we talk about the idea of emotional intelligence. And it's like, oh, they make me so mad. They just make me so mad. Why do I care what they think? I'm so stupid for even caring about them. Why do I care? Slow your roll, right? Put on the brakes a little bit there. Instead of saying, I'm so stupid for feeling this way, or I'm so stupid that I let this happen, we need to say, I don't like that I feel this way, or I'm not happy that it went this way, but I'm going to take action to fix it. And I think that's where really the power is it's moving from just telling ourselves that subconscious, all the things that are negative, because it really does, that trash in our head, we tend to believe it. And a huge percentage, like you said, science, I think it's like 122% of the things we say to ourselves are negative.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate, but it's something like that, science.
By and large, negative.
Right.
It's my default programming is what I'm hearing up here is going to be negative and not as gentle as oh, I missed my turn. I'm so stupid. No, mine's like, you fucking asshole.
Right.
God damn it. You're so
You're
dumb.
such an idiot. Yeah.
Like that. Why? I would not talk to my husband that way. I wouldn't talk to my kids that way. I wouldn't talk to coworkers that way. It's not how I would speak to anyone because I respect people and people I care about. Absolutely. I never want to speak that way to them. Why am I talking to myself that way?
If we wouldn't talk to another person like that, why is it okay for us to talk to ourselves like that? And yet we do.
And that the issue is when you let it become a barrier. So you don't do the thing you want. You don't take the action that needs to be taken because you're believing that inner monologue. So just be like, Nancy, shut up. I am awesome. You could even then, now I don't know if this gets into like personality disorders, but you could then say, oh, hey, all right, so Nancy's really mean to me. So Stacy's going to come in and be like, hey, Nancy, you're wrong. And then to myself in my own head, you're amazing.
Right.
You're fabulous.
I like it.
This doesn't necessarily matter. It's just a simple thing.
It's the devil and the angel on the shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, but again, that might be a little too much.
Stacy can talk you down off the ledge.
Yeah.
I like it.
But giving a name to at least the negative aspect of it can help you separate it a little bit more because what we want to avoid is believing it.
I like it.
And we are programmed to believe it in this negative way.
That's true.
And that's just the voice in your head. That's not the only voice that you're going to hear from in your life.
I just think that the voices that in our head, the things that we, like how you talk to yourself matters. Now, I will say just one last thing on this is that I don't, I'm not into like positive affirmations. I'm not the person that's going to ever tell you that you should stand in front of the mirror like Stuart Smalley style and tell yourself you're good enough, strong enough, and doggone it, people like you. I think those are generally pretty stupid because you're saying them because you don't believe them. So I'm not sure how effective they are. I don't think it's about positive affirmations as much as it is about positive action. So when you say that you're telling that voice, you're naming it and you're saying no, you're giving yourself a way to redefine it. You're bringing in the other side of it. Let's redefine this. Let's reevaluate this. I think that is much smarter than doing the fake things because you're saying that because you don't believe it anyway. And just because you say it in the mirror 3 times doesn't mean you're going to believe it after you've said it. So I think that it's not about positive affirmations, it's about positive action. So what action can you take? So when you say, Nancy, knock it off, you're wrong. I'm not even going to go there. What can you do? If you're telling yourself, if Nancy's saying you can't do that, you're not smart enough, you don't have the education, you don't have the skill, you don't know how. If Nancy's saying that, then what do you have to do is you have to say, knock it off. And then what action could I take to look at it? What's the actual positive action? What do I need to learn? What's the truth about this? What's another way of looking at it? And I think when you start to change it from positive affirmation to positive action, I think action builds comfort, action builds confidence. So the more that we do something, I think the better it becomes. So it is important. It starts with the voices in your head for sure and how we talk to ourselves. So tell Nancy to knock it off.
Damn
You should
it,
call your
Nancy.
good voice Julie.
Yes. I will say, though, that starting with positive affirmations, that could be a good starting place. So you want to have some kind of positive view of yourself, and then you have to back it up. So
Yes.
I've done that because I do feel weird standing in the mirror and be like, I am amazing. But if I think to myself, which I think this is a therapy thing that I learned at some point, but if I think to myself, no, the voices in my head are wrong. I am actually awesome. I'm list 10 things that I'm good at or how I am perceived at XYZ thing. And I'm using evidence to support the statement. So
Right.
then it's not just
It's not just blowing smoke.
yeah, like I'm not going to stand in front of the mirror and be like, you are the most beautiful woman in the world. But I might be able to say, here are 10 things I like about the way I look.
Do you remember Stuart Smalley?
No.
You're not in as many pop culture references. So for our audience, I'll bet you there's quite a few people that know exactly what I'm talking about. It was an old Saturday Night Live skit, and it was where he would sit in front of the mirror, and it was Stuart Smalley, and he was a motivational person.
Huh.
And he would say, I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and doggone it, people like me. But nobody really did.
Well, when it goes back to how you are taking power back, how you're like, even on the last episode, we were talking about how you stand up for yourself, how you speak
Right.
up for yourself. It's going to be a whole hell of a lot harder to do if you don't have a positive view of yourself.
That's right.
If you believe that you don't have anything worth saying, then it's going to be really difficult to speak up for yourself.
That's exactly. So, and if you think about kind of the purpose of this episode was the voices that you listen to. And so I think it's extremely important that that's the first thing we start with is your own voice, because your voice is the one you're going to hear more than any other voice. Ultimately, your voice is your biggest influencer. So how are you talking to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? And what actions are you taking from that? And I think when we start to pay attention to it, we start to think about it, I think it makes a difference.
It absolutely does. And again, we're on autopilot. These are not things that we typically
That's right.
have top of mind. So if you're intentional about it, you can start noticing what's being said and challenging it. And then from there, it's also about, well, what other voices, what other influences are you bringing in to shape the way you view yourself, the actions that you take, how you show up in the world? Especially with social media. We are constantly being influenced, whether you know it or not. And look, those influencers, they make like millions of dollars.
It's insane.
I don't know, which is why I think a lot of kids these days, it's like their dream job, that what they want to do when they grow up is be an influencer.
How is that a job? That blows me up. See, that's how you know I'm
But
old.
they get like brand deals. So they make
Right.
millions of dollars. Brands, we're not above a deal.
Right. I'm talking to you, Brand.
But-
I'm there.
I find it annoying because I do feel like now every time I open my phone, I'm being sold something. If it's a podcast, if it's a video, if it's an Instagram reel, whatever it is, I feel like I'm being sold something, and I don't like that. But even when I'm not being sold something, I'm just not recognizing it because we're being influenced. And outside of social media, we have plenty of other voices that we listen to too. Our family, our friends,
Our enemies.
the Nancys of the real world.
That's right. They're out there. And we do listen to them. We're getting messages, we're receiving messages all the time. And it is true, the feeling of being sold to. But social media has been such a fascinating journey. I mean, I'm really grateful that when I went to school, we didn't have social media because heaven forbid what would be out there now. But it's remarkable the impact that it's having on people. And it's not just kids. I mean, we certainly know that there's challenges with kids being on social media and being on, screens all the time. But even as adults. And I find it fascinating because it's a comparison. So what we tend to naturally do, and this is part of the way that we talk to ourselves, is we compare. So when we go on social media and we look at it and we're, doom scrolling, whatever we're doing, we're comparing ourselves. Do they look better? Are they doing something more exciting than me? Are they more successful than me? And it's this kind of subtle comparison that can happen, but we need to understand that you can't compare your real life to someone's highlight reel, and that's exactly what it is, because people only post, and I know we've actually talked about this in other episodes, that people only post the good stuff. I mean, most people don't post the bad, and the ones that do, quite frankly, you're even more annoying. I'm scrolling past your sad story. I don't want to hear it. But we look at that, and I always joke, this is always the example I use, is that I have a lot of friends that travel a lot for work. Never one time have I ever had a speaker friend post a picture of their boarding pass when they're sitting in the back. When they got that upgrade and they're sitting in 3E, they're all about it. Look at me. But when they're in 32F, you don't see that get posted. So we do have to be careful about those things, those subtle comparisons and those subtle things that seep in, because they certainly do. I mean, it's out there.
You can't avoid it. And it's subconscious a lot of the time.
It is.
So you have to have a strong enough self-view, a positive one, to know that you're still awesome even if you're not in first class.
Right. But not as awesome. Like, I didn't forget there's even people back there.
I've never been in first class, but someday.
Someday it'll happen for you.
I believe it will. So far, though, I just haven't been able to justify the spend. But
I get it.
I also hate flying in general, but I digress.
You're right. That's a whole nother issue.
That's a different topic.
We'll go there another day.
When we are taking in information from others, feedback, we're getting it on a daily basis. It's not like we have the luxury of, when we're speaking, there's a survey that people will fill out and they'll tell us if we suck or not.
They do, and they will.
Yeah. So, and we'll have specific questions. Even if we're at a conference and it's not our own survey, the conference has questions because they want to bring back good speakers. So if they're like, oh, yeah, this lady was terrible, she didn't know what she's talking about, then you're not going to get booked again. And we're able to take that feedback and apply it. And look, constructive criticism, it can hurt my feelings. It's still criticism. But it's necessary if I want to do better and improve. And you are constantly taking in feedback. Sometimes it's formal, like the way we get it. Sometimes it's informal. When you say to your spouse, you just need to calm down. The feedback you're going to get after saying that, it's not real positive.
I want to know, when in the history of the world, somebody said to someone, now calm down, and they responded with, oh, now that's an option I hadn't considered.
Right? When is that ever going to
work? Has that ever worked?
Has anyone done this to you? I don't know who started it, but one time this happened to me. I was really mad, and my husband at the time took a towel and put it around my back and was like, no, you're super mad. Now we're divorced.
So that is not a good technique.
Yeah, no.
That's not a takeaway.
No.
That's a cautionary tale.
But you are constantly getting feedback from others, other drivers on the road. Sometimes that's a finger gesture. Sometimes it's just the hey, thanks for letting me in wave. You're getting feedback from your family, from your friends, in the way they respond verbally and with their body language. You're always getting feedback, which is important.
Right.
What you do with that feedback, that's another story.
That's up to you.
But you do need to be open to feedback.
Yeah, I think that's, I agree. When you said, we understand the importance, like logically and analytically, when we talk about the idea of getting feedback or constructive feedback, that we logically and analytically can say, yes, we know that's important. That's how we grow. That's how we get better. That's how we improve. But the reality is that nobody really generally likes it in the moment. And some of us have a harder time with it than others. And I true confessions, I struggle with it a lot. Write me a note, but if you say it to my face, I tend to get very, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But
I'll
it is
just cry.
something that I struggle. See, I won't cry. I don't cry. I'll just get mad. I just get defensive. And it's not, neither one of those are appropriate. So again, those are cautionary tales, not things to take with you. But what I've tried to learn is that it is true. That's how we learn and grow. One of the things I always consider, and I'm going to share this, but I'm also going to get you to kind of put your spin on it as well. But I always, you hear when we talk about getting feedback, you hear consider the source. And I know that there's a lot of power in that, because I understand that we're considering intention. Does this person have my best interest at heart? I have a little bit different take on it, though, that over the years I've kind of honed so that I am better about receiving feedback, because I don't consider the source. I personally find that sometimes the people that love us the most, the people we would trust the most, they love us so much they don't always see the things that could improve. And so sometimes they're not our best resource. And I think sometimes the people that we dislike the most actually see stuff that we need to see. And I will tell you, I learned this. I was going to talk about getting feedback when you're speaking, and I had been doing a training, and it was actually a full day training. And one of the things I had just been teaching was talking about different personality styles. So how, some of these people are super outgoing, and they, they're very creative, and they use lots of, illustrations and stories. And some people are very logical and analytical. They like charts, graphs, data, number, information. And so I had just gone through kind of that idea, and it was time to take a break. So I was like, all right, 15 minutes, we'll be back in 15 minutes. We'll pick up where we left off. There was a woman, and I had a pretty good group. She was sitting all the way in the back. So I really had not even seen her. I couldn't even see her. And as soon as we took the break, I see her like stomping, like making a beeline for me, like coming right at me. And she walked up to me and she said, "Now I know why I don't like you."
Did you slap her?
I was like, well, I said, excuse me? And she said that based on what I had just taught her, that she realized that I was much more of a, comedian. I was funny. I used stories and illustrations. And based on what I had taught her, she was much more specific and analytical, and she liked more charts, graphs, data, and information. And so that's why she realized she didn't like me. And I looked at her and I said, so basically what you're saying to me is that you learned so much from me that you were able to determine my personality style and your personality style. And you could see how those two personality styles sometimes don't interact. And she said, yes. And I said, well, thank you for the feedback. And she stormed off. Now, here's kind of for me where the lesson came in on this is that it would be very easy for me to say, consider the source. What did this woman know? Right? Let her do what I do, right? She thinks she's going to be all charts, data, information. You stand up in front of a crowd for 6 hours and not just talk, but get them to listen for 6 hours. So, you do what I do and then you come back with feedback. I could have very easily dismissed her entire feedback because what does she know? Now, the reality is I was mad. But I had to get back to it, so I had to start back up. I had to compartmentalize my mad, put it in my back pocket. And as soon as I was done that day and I was packing my stuff up, then I let my mad out my pocket. And I started, stupid lady, what does she know? So I'm packing my laptop and stuff. Jerk, what does she know? Well, let her stand up here for 6 hours. But after I let myself kind of get over, like vent and just get over the mad, to me, that is when the real growth or the real work happens. Because I don't think the source matters. It doesn't matter who said it to me. I think what we have to be able to do, and I know for me this is what works, is I have to separate the feedback from the person that gave it to me. It doesn't matter who gave it to me, because at this point what I'm doing is I've separated it. It doesn't matter who said it to me. I'm just going to look at the feedback. And now I can look at that feedback and say, okay, does it have value? Is this something that would make me a better speaker? Now I can look at that and I can say, no. I can say that my style is my style and my style is what works. And, I've never gotten that kind of crazy feedback before. I probably am doing just fine as is. And I can choose to dismiss it. I can choose to let it go. Or I could look at it and I could say that, you know what? If I have one person in my audience who's more charts, graphs, data, I probably have more than one. And maybe that would be something I could incorporate that would make me better. and I can choose to take it in. Not because she said it, but because I chose to take it in. Or I might look at it and say, could I do a combination, or could I do part of it? Or is there something about this that I could take in and use? And it's not because of who said it to me. It's not because of how it was said to me. It's because I separate the feedback from who said it, and I choose what feedback I'm going to get. When people tell you what you should do, we are way more resistant to take action, right? Nobody likes to be told what to do. But when we choose it, it's taking back our power. I'm not doing it because she told me to do it. I'm doing it because I choose it. And that really has helped me to be able to accept feedback more openly, to be more open to making changes and to growth, because it doesn't matter who told me that. Because sometimes the people you love the most they're not the ones that are going to give you the most honest feedback all the time.
Very true. I am going to avoid the fight with my husband and maybe not tell him what I really think. Right. But I differ a little bit. So it's kind of two parts. The first is I do consider the source, but I don't usually just disregard it. It depends. So if someone says, God, Mallory, you're a terrible cook, but they've never eaten anything I've made, I'm not listening to that.
Right.
Like, you really don't know at that point. Maybe I have a reputation for being a bad cook because I am, but still try it before you make that decision. I listen primarily to those closest to me for things that I need to be most vulnerable about, because they deal with me day in, day out. Like if my husband says, you have a tendency to immediately be negative if I bring up an idea before you eventually come around to it. You know what? I'm probably going to hear him, side with him after I've done some reflection. So I give more weight to that. But
that makes sense.
There's another side to it too. So even if I don't have to agree with all the feedback that I get, especially if it's constructive, and I am sensitive, so I don't love it immediately, but then I'm thankful for it because it's going to sharpen me. I consider perception is reality. What have I done to contribute to your reality, your perception of me being this way? Bringing you to give me this piece of feedback.
That's a great point.
Because we all have some accountability within that. And I don't have to agree, but I can at least put myself in your shoes and try to understand why you feel that way so that I can then do something about it. And
that's powerful.
Sometimes the best feedback that we get is the stuff that we don't agree with.
Right.
And it's valid information, it's data, and you can then do something with that information.
I like that. I also think one of the things that when you said that it made me think of is that we consider intention, right? So we consider intention. Does this person, do they have good intentions? And I think that makes a difference. And I think you go to different people for different things, right?
Yes.
You might depend, like you said, they've never even eaten my cooking. How can they grade that? But different people are going to give you different honest feedback. I had a picture that we considered using for social media that I was not crazy about. It felt I felt really fake in it. If it was a little bit it felt like it was a little AI me, not real me. And I wanted to get some feedback because my first reaction was, I'm not so sure about this. So I texted the picture to two people. I texted it to my sister and to my husband. My husband said, "You're beautiful." My sister said, "No, don't use that. That doesn't even look like you." And she said, "I'm sorry. I hope you're okay hearing that." I'm like, that's why I asked you, because I know that I can go to her and she'll give me honest feedback. So I think sometimes we go to the people around us, especially for certain things, because we know that's something that they're going to be better about giving us real world feedback. And I think that's helpful. So you're right. It's not about always dismissing the source. I think sometimes we just have to evaluate the source. So I think what you're saying is right.
It's also important to be cautious with intentions, because the road to hell is paved with them. And I've gotten in some hot water with my intentions. I never ever want to hurt my husband's feelings or my kids' feelings or friends' feelings. But even with a positive intention, if I'm careless about the way that I say something, screw my intentions. I've hurt somebody.
That's right.
So I try to frame it as when someone else does have good intentions, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to try not to pay
Yes.
attention to, well, did they say it a particular way that felt like a jab?
Right.
And I hope that others would give me the same benefit of the doubt. But my default setting is probably no. So I'm going to be thoughtful
Extra
about
cautious.
this.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
And I hope that I'm being a good example in doing that by having that thought. You know, when I'm really heated, I'm probably not thinking about it, but giving that thought to something before I go into a conversation, before I send off that email. And I even like, sometimes when I'm really pissed off, I'll write out an email and I won't hit send. I'll be like, James, that's my husband. Can you come read this and tell me if it's too snarky?
Right.
And then he'll be like, yeah, tone it down.
Give it a half an hour and then go back and look at it again.
Yes, type later. For me, it's go smoke a cigarette first. But I try to be thoughtful about it, and I hope that by doing that, I'm setting a good example for my kids, for my husband, for my team, for my friends, because you do teach people how to treat you, and a lot of that has to do with what you tolerate, but a small portion of that is also how you're showing up.
That's right.
And let me tell you, when it comes to kids especially, they are sponges.
Yeah.
And going back to that negative inner monologue.
Yeah, that self-talk.
We are, most of us, me for sure. I'm so critical of myself with the way that I look. And your kids, I've got a daughter. I had to kind of remind myself when she was smaller, if she sees me kind of picking myself apart in the mirror, if she hears me, I'm not going to eat that. I'm trying to diet. I'm going to skip this meal, or I'm just going to have a protein shake. She's going to internalize all of that and then have her own issues with her body and her relationship to food. And I would never, ever, ever want that for her.
That's right.
So being mindful about what you're doing and the example you're setting is very important too.
I think that is very well said. I think that actually kind of brings us full circle, because our whole idea with this episode is voices that we listen to. So our internal voice, our inner monologue, the things that are just out there, whether it's social media, it's just what we see and we're exposed to in our culture, and then the feedback that we receive and how we navigate that. But I also think then the voices that we're sharing, who's listening to us. And I think with your daughter and just kids, I think that's such a great thing to remember. I don't have any kids of my own, but I have 6 amazing nieces who are my heart and soul. I love those girls more than life itself. And I think about that even with them, is what do I want them to hear? And I think there's a cautionary tale there when we talk about how we perceive social media and what that looks like for us, having those conversations with our kids, that how their relationship with social media, because they're seeing it too. And we can logically and analytically separate and say, well, I know I shouldn't be paying attention to this, but are we teaching them that too? So are we the voice in the world that we want others to hear? Because what you say matters. People are always watching.
And it's all, again, forms of data. I try to explain that to my kids. Like what you say, it's a highlight reel. So instead of comparing yourself, you can say, oh, that's aspirational. I'd love to go to Bali, whatever, right? You just take the data and you use it in a different way. And that's really the next step. Once you get the feedback, how you use it matters.
That's right.
If you just take it and be like, oh, okay, and never do anything about it.
Right, never take action.
I mean, that's a choice. You can do it, but you're probably not going to improve. And I think that human nature is that we're constantly evolving. And most of us, anyway, even if we think we're great, we still want to improve and be better. I know I do.
Absolutely.
And so it's a choice to do nothing. Yeah. I think that the best thing to do, though, is take some time to really let it soak in and reflect on it.
I say marinate in it.
Yeah. Just what about this information can you use to better yourself or your situation? Why, even if I disagree with it, why would this person have been led to feel this way? Why are they giving me feedback? Because most people, they're not just going to come up to me like, you suck. Like they're very much like, because of I come from a place of caring, I want to bring this to your attention. So choosing what you do after you've reflected on it, yes, I think is the next logical step. And it doesn't have to make you feel like you're a bad person or that you suck. It's
you're improving.
You're already great. You're just improving even more.
That's right. That's the moving from just the positive aspiration or positive affirmation to positive action. And I think that's where the growth happens. The growth doesn't come from receiving feedback. The growth comes from acting on the feedback. And are we willing to take action, whether that feedback comes from your own inner monologue, whether that feedback comes from something you see on social media, whether that feedback comes from somebody coming up and giving you feedback. And I think that I love that you are willing to say that you think most of the time people aren't trying to be negative. I think there are plenty of people out there that are just being bitchy and that do it just because they want to tell you the negative.
Yeah.
So I do think that is being able to, like you said, kind of marinate in it, think about it, reflect on it, and identify, is this something that's going to make a difference for me? And then you make the choice. So who are we listening to and who is listening to us? And are we leading by example?
It's important. And think about, too, the media that you take in. Who are you listening to in your life, and what are their messages? I bet if you get thoughtful and intentional about it, you're going to start noticing it a lot more, and for your own inner Nancy.
That's right. Tell Nancy to knock it off. That's what we should have called this episode. Knock it off, Nancy. Knock it off, Nancy.
No offense to anyone named Nancy.
I know all
It's a
my
beautiful
friends that are
name.
Nancy. It's a lovely name. It is. We love it. Well, I think hopefully everybody feels like they got some thoughts that they can take with them today that they can use that will help make a difference for them as they look at what voices they're listening to and who's listening to their voice, because you don't have to be in an official position of leadership to be a leader in your family, in your life, in your community, in the workplace. And so hopefully leading by example and the things we talked about will help you do that.
Yes. And remember to believe in yourself, because you are capable of so much more.
That's absolutely right. You can grow, you can learn, you can do. You can break through with Mallory and Julie.
Thanks for hanging with us. We appreciate it. Please, before you go, like, subscribe, share, comment, give us feedback. All of the things. We appreciate it.
That's right. All the things. We want to hear from you. Thank you, y'all. See you on the next one.